Okay, again, happy Tuesday to all of you guys. Today it's November the 8th. It's about 10:06 in the morning. Thanks to all of you guys who are joining into our training class. Even though it is a raining day, I know you guys are taking the time to learn about real estate. And today we're gonna go through different disclosures, actually the withdrawal of the offer, addendums, and request for repairs, and the response for the request for repairs when it comes from the seller's side. But before actually I start our training, I just want to do a little quick reminder to please don't forget to attend, even on sharpening your skills, to attend our real estate bootcamp when it comes to through Berkshire. Again, keep in mind that today is in live in person. The escrow process, okay, is going to be held at the corporate office at 16911 Bellflower Boulevard in Bellflower. So today the subject topic is the escrow process. So it is a live class. So you may go actually, there's no Zoom. So I do definitely encourage all of you guys who definitely want to sharpen your skills or have no knowledge what is the escrow process. Please attend that training today from 6 to 8 p.m. tonight. And then online on Saturday, is going to be the new also training as well. And this is going to be on the customer relationship management, the CRM, customer relationship management. And that's from on Saturdays. This Saturday, 12 from 10 to 12. Okay. So please, again, it's always good to continue learning like you are doing right now with me on Tuesdays. But again, continue growing and expanding your mind. Because again, knowledge, it is power to you guys. Okay, guys. All right. Let's move on with our training. And let's go right into the car withdrawal of the offer. Okay. So who can tell me why would we need to maybe withdraw of an offer? Has anybody, or let me rephrase my question. The offer, when you submit an offer, how good or what's the life of the offer, the life expectancy for that offer? For how long is that offer good for? How many days, how many hours per contract? Again, I'm speaking per contract. How
3
long?
days.
Brenda?
Is it 3?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. 3 days. And that is 3 calendar days. Okay, please make a note of that. It is 3 calendar days. Okay. And but again, the life of the offer, okay, can be modified per contract. So please keep that in mind. Okay. You go either make it shorter or expand the life of the offer. Okay. Now, if you say, well, Freddy, how do I do that? Can I just put it in writing somewhere? Well, no, let me show you. Let me go back to my offer. And let me show you where about you go extend the life of the offer, okay, on the RPA or any purchase contract that you have on your that you're working with. Okay. And that will be on page 1 of the grid, if I'm not mistaken. And it'll be right here. Okay, right here. If you just see, okay, on 3C right there, expiration of the offer. Okay, so it says here, right, 3 calendar days after the buyer's signature, or you could extend it, right? So again, keep in mind today is always day 0. Okay, so even though the buyers have signed today, tomorrow is day 1. Okay, so this offer is going to be good through all the way through Friday if we don't modify it. Okay, 1, 2, 3 days. Now we could extend it maybe a week, right, until 5 p.m. or later time, maybe 8 p.m. right? Now, why do we want to extend the offer, the life of the offer? Does anybody have an idea why we want to definitely extend the life of the offer? What would the reason behind it?
Maybe the sellers are busy, like over the weekend, so on and so forth, some kind of situation like that.
Exactly. Yes, Mike, that is correct. Because a lot of agents, they wait to the weekend, right, to present all the offers, right? Now, keep in mind that if your offer is dead by Friday, now can that offer be actually relive itself? Well, it does relive itself if they counter your offer. If they don't do anything to your offer, right? If it was submitted but never reviewed or it was rejected, that offer automatically becomes dead, right? But just like Mike said, okay, yes, maybe nowadays with the holidays, right? Thanksgiving's around the corner, Christmas holidays, New Year's, and so many holidays they're around the corner, right? Maybe the sellers are out of vacation or little trip or getaway, who knows what, right? And then you want to extend the life of the offer so it doesn't die in 3 days, but it dies maybe a week after or so on after the last signature from the buyer. Okay, so the buyer has to sign, and then the clerk starts right after. Are we good on that? Yes. Okay, so now let's go back to the withdrawal of the offer. Okay, now why? Okay, now let's say you submit an offer, right? And then 3 days have passed and you didn't get a reply, you didn't get an answer. That offer is already dead, right? Per contract. Can you resubmit a new offer on the same property? Yes, you can. You could resubmit a whole new offer. Maybe you want to revise the sales price. Maybe you want to revise the down payment. Maybe you want to revise the close of escrow. Maybe contingency periods. Again, this would be 10 many items that you could definitely revise that you didn't do on your original offer, right? Now, what happens if that offer hasn't died or hasn't expired, right? Can you modify that offer that still hasn't expired? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Carlos says yes. Now, how would you go about, right, modifying that offer hasn't expired? Well, this is a form to use. This will be the form we definitely got to use. If your offer is still alive in 3 days, right? Then see, well, you know what? I want to modify that offer. Maybe my buyers, they thought about it. They know that they really want this house. And when they want to make it a competing bidding war and this offer from the rest, right? Well, this will be the form to use because you just cannot actually change page 1 or page 2 of the regular RPA. You got to start fresh from the get-go, from the beginning, okay? And this will be the form to use to tell the listing agent, hey, Mr. Listing Agent, is to let you know that offer that my buyer submitted, okay? We want to withdraw from that offer and we want to submit a whole new offer with it as well, okay? So car form WOO, car form WOO, right? This is the form to use withdraw for the offer. So if you go on paragraph 1, it says offer or counteroffer not yet accepted, right? This is when the offer has not yet been accepted or presented to the seller from your buyer's offer, right? So again, it says here, A, buyer has made an offer dated. Okay, when was the offer dated, right? If it was dated yesterday, right? For example, then we put Monday 11th, right? Actually, November the 11th, November the 7th, excuse me, November the 7th, right? Purchase agreement or other, right? And then again, on the property known as 1234 Main Street, between who? Buyer and Sally seller, right? And then again, now letter B, if checked, buyer or seller has issued a counter offer. This one does not apply. When you submit an offer, it's only letter A, okay? So B does not apply because there's no counter offers in play, right? And letter C, according to the terms of the offer, counter offers, the offer counter offer has not yet been accepted, right? So it's just letting you know that the terms of the offer or the counter offer, right, has not yet been accepted, right? Or let's say, you know what, well, what if your buyers decide, you know what, we don't want to continue with that offer and we just want to withdraw and revoke it. We're not really interested in the property anymore. We found something better. Carlos, thank you very much. We definitely want to pursue that offer, right? Because, the last thing you want, okay, that the offer you submitted from the day one on that property, it does get accepted, but then your buyers decided to go somewhere else. Carlos, you raise your hand. Go ahead, brother. Talk to me.
Yes, if you get a best and final, we get some that submit your best and final, highest and best.
Yes, sir.
You go through this process of submitting this offer?
if they want to, okay, so you're saying in counter stages, correct? So on your counter stages, you got the best and final, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then your buyer submitted a counter offer, right? To that offer, to the counter offer, right? And buyers at the BCO, and they put the best price, and then they thought about it, you know, hey Carlos, you know what? We really thought about it. We want to offer more money. We want to change the price.
Right. They want to change the terms.
The terms, right? So yeah, so this will be the correct form to use as well, right? But this will be what? An or, other, the buyer's counter offer. So we're here will be buyers, right? Counter offer number 1, right? And dated, and then when was that dated? It goes to that date right there. And right here, again, if buyer, then you select right here, if buyers, same thing goes with that right there. Okay. So now you're saying is based now on the counter offer, right? But now let's go back to the original RPA. And Carlos, great question. Thank you for asking that. So let's go back to the original offer. Okay. Let's say, yeah, you know, get your showing properties, and then of course waiting for that offer to get accepted. You know, your buyers find another property either through your app, Zillow, who knows what, right? And they say, hey, Brenda, you know, actually, we found a better property. It's selling for less. We want to go see it. Of course, Brenda schedules that appointment, sees the property, right? And goes on, right? Well, now this property shows really well. It's for less price, but now they don't want to pursue with the other offer from the first property. Now they want to pursue the second property, right? So they want to now what? They want to withdraw that offer they submitted on the first property, right? So this will be, we go to paragraph number 2 right here, right? And then we're going to do a withdrawal and revocation of that offer, right? So again, it says here, the buyer or seller making the offer or counter hereby withdraws and revokes it. That's it, right? Or now if checked, right? Because now one thing is you never revoke it, but again, we also got to notify who? The listing agent. We got to let them know, you know, hey, Larry Lister, I just to let you know, my buyer, Bob Buyer, has decided to revoke or withdraw from the original RPA. They don't want to be part of the game no more. They want to get out of the game. Okay. Okay. Fine then. Okay. If checked, confirmation of withdrawal offer and revocation. This document confirms that that offer, right, was already withdrawn and revoked on which date? Okay. On the 8th, for example. At what time? Well, at 12 p.m. Right. By whom? By Bob Buyer. Right. And right, given verbally or given verbal notice to who? To Larry Lister, right? So it was done verbally over the phone, text message, email, whatever that was done, it was done, right? But you also want to submit this as well, because one thing you do it verbally through your phone, right? But you also want the buyer to sign and date it and so far, right? So any questions when it comes to the withdrawal of the original offer to modify or revoked their offer to move to another property? Any questions on that? Okay, good. So now going back to Carlos's question, what if they submitted a counter offer, right, from the seller to the buyer, and they did the highest and best, and they want to change the terms and conditions in the price? Same thing, same process. But now you got to select letter B here, right? And select which one it is, right? Now, can this apply for the seller and the buyer? Yes, it can for both parties, okay? So let's say, for example, right? Let's say the buyer submitted a counter offer, right? But the seller did a seller's counter offer number 2, but that counter offer number 2 had not yet been presented to the buyer from the seller side, right? Can the seller also withdraw the seller's counter number 2? Yes, they can, right? They can withdraw and submit a better, or maybe also modify their terms and conditions and make the price if the offer if that counter offer has not yet been presented to the buyer. Okay, so please keep that in mind for this form to work. Okay, neither offer must be presented. Once it has been presented and signed, you cannot submit a withdrawal of the offer. So if both parties have already signed into a binding contract, okay, please keep in mind that that's it. You already have a binding contract from the parties. Okay, so any questions on the binding of the contract when it comes to getting signed? So now, how would you go about to cancel the offer? If you already have a binding contract because it was too late that your seller submitted the withdrawal of the offer, it was presented to the buyer. Now the buyer accepts the offer, right? So how can you go about modifying the terms from the seller to the buyer? Maybe the price was too low or the terms was not what they wanted. Can you go about modifying or canceling that offer from the seller's eyes to the buyer?
If it's been accepted already, you're saying?
Yes, as it has been accepted already, yes. Can a seller cancel or modify the offer?
Can the seller cancel or modify?
Yes.
No.
No, you're right, they can't. They can't modify the offer or cancel. Keep in mind the seller has, pretty much when it comes to a purchase contract, okay, the seller doesn't have that many rights like the buyer does, right? So once the counter offer has been accepted, right, then it's gonna be kind of hard or tough, okay, or to get the offer, the binding contract, either modified or canceled from the seller, right? Now, but let's switch the roles, okay? Let's say that the buyer's counteroffer, right, it was presented to the seller, right, and then the buyer wanted to do a withdrawal of the offer to maybe change the price or the terms or anything else, right? Now, can the buyer cancel or modify the offer, the purchase contract, the contract? And who says yes, who says no?
Yes.
Yes to what? Cancel or to modify the terms and conditions?
Well, it could be modified with the addendum, correct?
Right, you can.
And
But-
it could be canceled if they're within the contingency period.
Yes, and that is correct, yes. So keep in mind that any terms and modification, any terms and conditions, yes, they can be modified, right, with an addendum, but both parties have to agree to it to make it work on either side. Now, on the buying side, to the seller, if the price was not what they wanted, can the buyers cancel? Yes, it can cancel, but not based on price, not based on terms, not based on conditions, right? Now, they gotta go into escrow, right? But most likely they gotta cancel based on the contingency period, right? On the length of the contingency, right? So anything on in what is it? Inspections, investigations, right? Reports, right? Disclosures, appraisal, and loan. Those are the only reasons why a buyer can cancel. They cannot come back. Well, we changed our mind because the price is too expensive, it's too high. We thought about it and we cannot afford it. No, they cannot cancel based on those terms, right? Keep that in mind. Okay. So any questions when it comes to the withdrawal of the offer? We're good? It's
So you said appraisal, loan, and what else?
Okay, so when it comes to the buyers, the contingencies are inspections,
Okay,
investigations, reports, disclosures, appraisal, and loan.
okay.
Those are your contingencies when it comes to the buyer side. Now, does the seller have any contingencies? Yes, they do, if it applies to the transaction. Only when they do what? A seller's replacement of property, right? And that's your card form SPRP. Okay, the seller only has one contingency if any applies, which is a seller's replacement or purchase property, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on. Let me bring up the, I don't think we talked about the cancellation of contract. Have we talked about the cancellation of a contract? I don't think we have, right? So let me bring it up. Cancellation of a contract. So this is your cancellation of a contract. Okay. Now a lot of us, I guess, we don't want to open escrow and then go this route to cancel the escrow, because I know you work really hard on your offer to get accepted, right? But again, if worse comes to shove, most likely you will have to do a cancellation of contract, disposition of deposit, and cancellation of escrow. CAR form CC. Okay. Now, when it comes to the cancellation of a contract, okay, please keep in mind that either party can initial the cancellation of contract, okay, regardless if escrow has not yet been open. Okay, again, regardless if escrow has not yet been open, if the buyer has not yet deposited any money into escrow, it doesn't matter. Okay, the binding contract begins when the buyer and the seller have signed the RPA or the purchase contract and counter offers. That's when you begin a binding contract together. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you open, if escrow was never open, if the buyers never brought in their initial deposit. Again, regardless of all that, what really matters is the binding contract between the parties. Okay, contract and RP and counter offers, that makes it a binding contract. So now, why would we go this route? Why do we want to pursue a cancellation of a contract? Okay, there are many reasons why. Okay, like the seller side and the buying side. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually we're working with the seller right now. Okay, now why would we want to actually pursue a cancellation of a contract if the buyer has not yet performed? Okay, but again, do not forget, okay, before we proceed with the cancellation, okay, from either party, and we have talked about this already, okay, we need to submit first, okay, the last warning, which is a last performance, and that's your CAR form MVP, which is a notice to buyer to perform, or NSP, seller notice to seller to perform. NSP, notice to seller to perform, or MVP, which is notice to buyer to perform. Okay, you cannot cancel, okay, or present this, okay, without first giving the last notice to either party to perform based on that item they need to do. Okay, so in this case, let's say, for example, right, you did open escrow, you're moving forward, but the buyer has not yet brought in the money, which is their earnest money deposit into escrow. Okay, and now within how many days or business days does the buyer needs or has to bring into the money to escrow? How many days or business days after acceptance per contract? Ramon?
I would say 3 days.
3 days or three
Three-
business days?
3 business days.
Yes, okay. So per contract, okay, the buyer has 3 business days to bring in the money into escrow after acceptance, okay? Now, why business days? Because escrow only opens from Monday through Friday, and they don't work on the weekends, and they don't work on the holidays, okay? Now, this Friday, what is this Friday? This Friday is what? Veterans Day, right? And guess what? The offices will be closed, escrow will be closed, the banks will be closed, the post office will be closed. It's a government reserve holiday, right? So this Friday, to let you guys know, we are going to be closed. So if you come in looking for me on Friday, I'm sorry, I won't be at the office. I'll be home, kicking back. Okay, so again, yes, going back to the buyer's earnest money deposit is within 3 business days. Okay, now that's the only time the purchase contract, it speaks about business days. Okay, anything else is based on calendar days or just days. Okay, so now going back to the last performance day, right? Now, keep in mind that if the buyer has not yet brought in the money within 3 business days, right? You got to give them the last notice prior to perform, and they have 2 more business days, right, to comply, right? Now, if they don't comply on the 5th day after giving the buyer a notice to perform, now you may submit and serve them with the cancellation of a contract, right? Now you have the right as a seller to provide this to the buyer. Mr. Buyer, since you didn't perform and you didn't bring the money into escrow, I'm going to give you a notice now, a cancellation of a contract for non-performance on your side. Does that make sense to all of you guys? Yes? Okay. So now, how do we go about to prepare this cancellation of contract? Well, here we go, right? In accordance with the terms and conditions of the purchase agreement or other. Now, other can be what? Commercial purchase agreement, vacant land, business, and who knows what, right? That's your other, right? Agreement dated. When was this dated? Okay, it was probably dated last Friday, right? Or last Wednesday, for example. We got to give it 3 days, right, in advance, right? The property. Now, buyer and seller are referred as the parties. We know that, right? They're both the parties, right? Okay, now, both paragraph 1 and 2 below constitute escrow instructions to the escrow holder, right? 1, cancellation of contract. 1 party cancellation. This paragraph is issued to cancel that agreement by buyer or seller. Its terms apply whether or not both parties agree to disposition of deposit and cancellation of escrow in paragraph 2 below, right? Now, right here on 1A, the first one, who's going to initiate the cancellation? Is it the buyer or the seller, right? By signing below, cancels that agreement for the following reasons, right? So in this case, the seller is going to initiate what? The cancellation. Because of what? Because of non-performance from whom? From the buyer, okay? So right here is the person who's going to initiate the cancellation on the first little option here, right? In the first paragraph. Now you have 5 options to choose from. 1, as permitted by good faith. Exercise the paragraph, right? No. Number 2, buyer has failed to remove the applicable contingency or take the applicable construction action after being what? Given a notice to perform to the buyer, right? Card form MVP. Or 3, seller has failed to remove the applicable contingency or take the applicable constructional action after giving a notice to seller to perform. Or 4, the other party has failed to close escrow after giving, right, a demand to close escrow, card form DCE or other. So which one of these 5 would that apply to? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So which one applies in this scenario? Teresa? Number 2. So you're saying buyer has failed to remove the applicable contingency or take the applicable constructional action after giving the notice to perform? Yes, Ramon, that is correct, okay? Because again, we have given the buyer the last ultimatum, right? Again, Mr. Buyer, look, I have already given you a notice to perform, right? Which you didn't do. Now, because you didn't perform, now I have the right to give you the cancellation of a contract, right? Yes, Ramon. So this would be the right check mark to select when the buyer has not performed. Okay. So now we continue, right? And who initiated the cancellation here? It was who? The seller, right? So in this case, your seller will have to sign this part right here. They did right there. And then we go to the second part of the cancellation of a contract. Now, right here, disposition of deposit and cancellation of escrow, right? Now, paragraph 2, right? So now when it comes to here, right, has the buyer brought the money in? No, they haven't returned it. They haven't brought the money into escrow, right? So now we have different options here as well, right? So now it says here, purpose of paragraph 2. This paragraph is used to instruct escrow holder to cancel the escrow for the purchase, sale, or other designated transaction for the property, and what to do with the deposit. Any cancellation of contract pursuant to paragraph 1A remains in effect even if both parties to the agreement do not sign below, right? Okay, now it says here, B, release of funds not automatic. Release of funds by escrow holder pursuant to paragraph 2 requires mutually signed release instructions from buyer and seller, judicial decision, or arbitration award. A party may be subject to the civil penalty up to $1,000 for the refusal to sign such instructions if no good faith dispute exists as to who's entitled to the deposit funds, right? Civil Code 1057.3. Now, the full release and disposition of deposit, select one of the options C or D or both, but not both, okay? But not both, okay? Either C or D, but not both, okay? Buyer and seller cancels escrows with escrow number. Okay, now keep in mind we did open escrow, okay? Keep in mind we did open escrow, right? So we have the escrow number with who? With ABC escrow, right? The parties mutually release each other from any obligation to buy, sell, exchange the property under this agreement, mutually release each other, right? Now, from other claims, actions, and demands from each may have against the others by reasons by this agreement, and to intend that other rights and obligations arising from other agreements and null and void. Now, right here, right? So when it comes to letter C, 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay, we need to select one box, okay? And now it reads, seller authorizes the release of the buyer's deposits to buyers less fees, buyer's fees and costs already incurred and agreed in the contract to be paid through escrow, including any escrow cancellation fees. Or B, buyer authorizes the release of buyer deposits to the seller, less seller's fees and costs already incurred and agreed to the contract to be paid through escrow, including any fees, cancellation fees. Now, pursuant to the property executed liquidated damages clause, buyers authorizes the release of deposits to the seller is limited to no more than 3% of the purchase agreement, right? If the property is a dwelling with no more than 4 units of which the buyer intends to occupy. Any additional deposit shall be what? Returned to the buyer. Or 3, buyer authorizes the release of what? Well, it could be a dollar amount from the buyer deposit to the seller, right? Or 4, there is no deposit in escrow. Each party to pay their own unpaid construction fees and costs, if any, already incurred and agreed in the contract to be paid through escrow, including any escrow cancellation fees. So now, which one would this apply if there's no deposit into escrow? 1, 2, 3, or 4? If there's no deposit into escrow, which one applies? 1, 2, and 3, or 4?
4.
Exactly. Thank you, Brenda Bailey. Yes, 4. Because again, keep in mind that we know that the buyer never brought the deposit, right, into escrow. So we're saying that there's no deposit into escrow, right? But each party must pay their own unpaid construction fees and costs, right? Yes. Thank you, Brenda Urena, as well. Yes, it's 4. Okay. All right. So yes. So now let's go ahead and change this role play, right? Let's say yes, there was a deposit brought into escrow, right? But the seller decided to cancel, right, for something else. Okay. Now, if there's a deposit brought into escrow, okay, and the seller has decided to cancel because the seller didn't perform, okay, what will be the reasons why a seller would like to cancel on non-performance to the buyer? So can anybody give me an idea for non-performance from the buyer that the seller wants to cancel based on what?
Failure to close on time.
Well, that would be most likely a demand to close escrow, Carlitos. Well, yeah, but that's a good one. Yes. So yes, that could be also a failure, right? But now for that, if you're gonna submit you cannot submit a notice to perform if you're a failure to close on time. Then you gotta give the buyer a demand to close escrow. Okay, a demand to close escrow. You cannot give a notice to perform. Okay, if the seller wants to cancel after the buyer has removed all contingencies, right? And the buyer has delayed the close of escrow, right? Then you got to give them a demand to close escrow. Now, how many days does the demand allows the buyer to close escrow? Additional days. How many additional days does the demand has for the buyer to perform? 2, 1, or 3?
2.
2. Mike, I'm sorry, but it's 3, my friend. The demand to close escrow allows the buyer 3 more days, okay, to close that escrow. And here, let me bring it up.
Was it at some point 2 and then changed to 3?
It always has been 3.
Okay, got it.
Only the demand to close escrow has been 2. Okay, so here it is, right? So same thing, the demand, and again, this is only to what? To demand to close escrow after they have gone after the original date of escrow, the date of close of escrow. Okay, you cannot submit this before the original date of the close of escrow. This must be given after the date of the close of escrow that has passed already. Okay, so again, so here it is, right? So either party can intend. Okay, so seller hereby demands that buyer close of escrow on the property within how many days? Within 3 days, right? But no less than 3 days as specified in this agreement, right? So you cannot give, well, I want to give it 2 days. Nope. It needs to be more than 3 days. Okay. After the delivery of this demand to close escrow, but no earlier than agreed upon the close of escrow date, right? So if your close of escrow was today and you have not closed, because again, something happened, loan docs are not ready, they don't have the remaining of down payment to bring it to escrow, then yes, you could provide this, and you give them now 3 more days, right, to close escrow. So now you say by Friday, we definitely gotta close escrow, right? Or you wanna do it maybe by a specific date, right? Maybe not 3 days, maybe you wanna take it by next Monday, because you know Friday is a holiday, right? So you wanna take it by the 14. You wanna give them until the 14 now to close that escrow, because Friday it's a holiday, right? So Friday we cannot close escrow because it's a holiday, they'll be closed. So you give an additional day more, right? Until the 14, right? And then again, the seller will sign right here, right? Now it says here, okay, please keep note. Note to the buyer, right? If you do not close escrow by the end of the time period specified on this demand to close escrow and seller has fully performed, seller may immediately cancel that agreement, bring legal action against you for damages, including but not limited to what? Deposit, or bring legal action against you to force you to buy the property now to specific performance, right? So if by Monday of next week, Mike, that buyer does not close escrow, right? The seller has what? Has the authority, right? To what? To immediately, has the right to immediately cancel this agreement, right? That's it. The opportunities to the buyer to perform or to demand to close escrow have gone. They're already no more. That's it. So now the seller has the right to cancel and what? And bring legal actions for any damages and include to keep their what? Their deposit for non-performance and not able to close that escrow. Okay, or any other legal matter as well. Okay, so any questions on the demand to close escrow? No questions? Okay, now what if
Freddy, I have some questions.
go ahead, Mike.
So if investigations were done and let's say inspection was done, and something came out on the inspection report that the buyer was concerned about.
Okay.
However, the concern is not a do or die situation. It's something that the seller can fix and can repair. Does the buyer still have the right to back out?
Keep in mind that, okay, so is this before removing contingencies or after?
Before.
Okay. Keep in mind that if the buyer has not removed any contingencies or there are other contingencies, the buyer can cancel based on that new investigation that arises. Okay. But again, let's say that the buyer has removed our contingencies and they only left their appraisal and the loan in effect, right? So let's say that something else came up and it was disclosed from the seller to the buyer. That creates a new contingency based on that item only. That's it. So the buyer now has 5 days to investigate, right? Or to accept and to move on. But yes, the buyer can cancel based on the new investigation that it was disclosed from the seller to the buyer. I hope that makes sense to your question, Mike.
Yes, thank you very much, Freddie. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Yes, but now, if this now let me bring your question back again, Mike. Let's say that the buyer has removed all contingencies, right, and they only left the loan and the appraisal in effect. But going through the home inspections, right, the buyer found out something else, that it was the heating cut at the first time. He cannot cancel based on the report. Okay, and then again, well, they cannot say, well, we want to cancel because we found something else on the report and we didn't like it, and now we want to cancel. No, if you want to cancel, it's going to be based on the appraisal and the loan. That's it. You cannot cancel based on on something new findings you caught after you have removed contingencies based on your own report. And I hope that makes sense to all of you guys as well. So please keep your mind open on that, because again, a lot of buyers, they want to cancel based on the appraisal or on the loan, but it's not based on that. It's based on the something else they didn't like about the property, or something else they found out later on. Maybe they couldn't build, they couldn't get a permit, who knows what. And say, well, we didn't get loan approval, we didn't get this. No. Well, if they want to cancel based on the loan approval or the appraisal, show me the evidence, show me the appraisal, show me your loan approval that you didn't get approved. And I hope that makes sense as well. Great question, Mike. Okay, now let's go back. Now let's bring this demand to close escrow, right, on the buying side. Okay, so on the buying side, it's the same thing, folks. Okay, same thing. The buyer has the right to cancel immediately, right, or to demand to force the sale and have the seller sell the property to the buyer, right? Same thing. It says here, right? So note to the seller, if you do not close by the end of the time period specified in this demand to close escrow and the buyer has fully performed, buyer may bring legal actions against you for damages because of the breach of contract, bring the legal actions against you to force a sale of the property. Now, why or what would be the reasons why a seller may not be able to close on time? What could be the factors or the reasons why a seller may not be able to close on time?
Maybe their next property is not ready to close, or they're not ready to move out.
Yes, that could be one. Yeah, that could be one of the reasons why. Yeah, maybe they want to close concurrently at the same time, right? And they're not ready to close on the other one because they don't want to be, left homeless in this case. What could be another reason why? Thank you, Brenda. What can cause us a seller to be breach of contract? And that's your clue. What can cause a seller to be breach of contract?
Cloud on title.
No.
Try.
No. Good guess, but no, it's not.
In the case of a property that's being rented, maybe the owner cannot make the renters to leave the property.
Tenants, yes, yes, and that's the key, Ramon. That is correct, right? So if the buyer has requested maybe the unit or that house, and it was at one point tenant occupied, right? And for whatever given reason, the seller cannot evict, right? Or provide the house to be vacant at the close of escrow, right? Then yes, right? The seller will be breach of contract because that was negotiated from the beginning, right? That the property to be delivered vacant at the close of escrow. And if the seller cannot provide the house to be delivered vacant because it's still tenant occupied, right? And he's delaying the escrow for that reason, yes, he will be breach of contract for not actually evicting the tenants. Ramon, great, Ramon, good for you, brother. Okay, so yes, so the one is could be their up leg, right? Their replacement purchase of the property, right? They're trying to replace, they haven't closed and they need time to extend the escrow. And the second one could be, again, if it is tenant occupied and it was negotiated to have the house vacant at the close of escrow. Okay, and then again, don't forget, for this to work, it has 3 more days. Now, Freddy, but wait a minute, isn't it business days because escrow closes on the weekends? No. This is the only time. So if it's 3 business days, if, for example, this Friday, right, it's a holiday, it will take you to the next day, right, which will be Monday, right? So keep that in mind. All right. Let's move on with the cancellation of contract. Great questions, folks. Great questions. Okay, bring it on. Okay, now let's go now and role play. We're helping the buyer side now, right? The buyer has what? Initial the performance to the seller, right? Now, what can be the factors or the reasons why a buyer would like to cancel, right, to the seller? What would a buyer submit a notice to perform to the seller? For what reasons?
Could it be repairs that were agreed to be made that weren't completed?
Well, that falls into that category, Brenda, but keep in mind that you cannot cancel after your buyer has removed all contingencies. And I would encourage any seller, right, including your sellers, right, to do any work on the property without first knowing that the buyers have removed all contingencies. Because again, keep in mind, if their sellers start doing repairs or modifications based on the request for repairs, and the buyers have not yet removed any contingencies, right, keep them, the buyers have the right to withdraw and cancel that escrow. And so I would encourage your sellers to do work without first the buyers removing all their contingencies in play. But no, that's not a good question. I'm sorry, that's not a good answer. But it's kind of it's somewhere there. You're in the right track. So again, after giving a notice to seller to perform, what can be the reasons why a buyer would like to withdraw or cancel this contract?
The tenants didn't move out?
Well, that could be one of them. Yes, that could be one of them. Yes, that could be one of the reasons. And that is a Megan's law. No, Megan's law is not a reason why. Well, again, it is why, but we're giving the seller a notice to perform. Now, going back to you, Miss Bailey, right, Brenda? Yes, maybe you had put on the counter offer on the purchase contract, tenants to vacate the property 10 days after acceptance, right? After acceptance to have the house vacant, right? So we could do our home inspections, investigations, and so on. And the seller has not yet evicted those tenants or they haven't left. Yes, that could be one of the reasons why, right? Well, we give a notice to perform to the seller. Now, what could be another reason why? That's one of them, and that's very good. Yes, Brenda. There's more reasons why.
To bring up the property to code, to city's code. Like-
That could be, yes, that could be another reason. But then again, Ramon, it goes back to the same question and answer that Brenda was giving us, right? The seller's already performing and doing work, right, on something the buyer has not yet removed contingencies for. And Miss Urena saying that the loan's not coming through. No, Brenda, again, keep in mind that we're working with the buyer and the seller has not performed on something they promised to do. So we're asking the seller to perform on some items per contract, but then they haven't not yet performed.
Could it be disclosures is not sent?
Yes, Brenda, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, disclosures can be one of the factors, right? Reports can be another one, right? Again, on the preliminary report and the HOA documents, the CCNRs, right? The city pre-sale inspection report, right? All these things that they're pushing forward for the buyer to perform, right? Based on their contingencies. So how do you expect me, Mr. Seller, to perform on something you have not even provided to me? Again, disclosures, yes, right? Because again, now going back to you, Ms. Bailey, Brenda, right? How many days per contract does the seller have to provide disclosures to the buyer? How many days?
I'm trying to remember. I think it's 5 or 7.
7.
Yeah.
7 days.
Mhm.
Okay. 7 days. Okay. Per contract. Okay. The seller has 7 days to provide all investigations, reports, disclosures, city pre-sales, HOA, CCNRs, everything related to the property to the buyer. Okay, everything, folks. 7 days, Monday through Sunday, 7 days. Okay, and those can be the reasons why a buyer would like to cancel this contract, this purchase agreement, right? Because of non-performance, right? So this will be on page number 3 right here, right? There'll be a reason why, right? And then number 2 right there. And then of course your buyer sends right there. Now, yes, there was a deposit brought into escrow. So now on this one, please always, okay, if you're helping your buyer, make sure to always select number 1. Please, number 1, because we want the seller authorizes the release of the buyer's deposit, right? Minus any fees occurred from the buyer, right? Okay, please, okay? Because if you select number 2, you're saying that your buyer will release their deposit to the seller, okay? And I have seen this many occasions by mistake that most of you guys bring this cancellation to me for review, and I see you guys selected number 2. And I'm saying, please correct it and put number 1. Unless your buyer is willing to give the money away, then yes, choose number 2. Otherwise, always choose number 1. Okay. And for non-performance. Now, let's say after everything, the transaction is clean, good, right? The buyers are moving forward. Disclosures were sent. Reports were sent. The city pre-sale was sent. Everything was sent on time, right? But the buyer has decided to remove, not to remove our contingencies, right? Before the 17th day. But now they want to cancel, right? And yes, Megan's Law is one of them. That is correct, right? But on what paragraph, right? Or what item here can the buyer cancel? Based on what? It's not based on performance, because we know that everything was turned in on time from the seller to the buyer, right? What be another reasons why? besides Megan's law, or on which paragraph, right, can the buyer exercise their good faith or other? So what reasons can that be based on what? If your buyer wants to cancel, based on what? Can it be
Can you
based on?
Can you repeat the scenario again, please?
Yes. So on a nice clean transaction, right? The sellers have provided all disclosures on time, reports, again, within the time allotted, which is 7 days before, right? The buyers have moved forward. They did the home inspection, they did the appraisal, they went through the disclosures, but there was something they didn't really like based on disclosures or the report, right? So how can they cancel based on either disclosures or report, home inspection reports, or termite, or anything else, or any, or cedar pre-sale report? Under which paragraph would that apply for their good faith exercise of the purchase contract? Which paragraph would that be? Now, if you have your RPA in front of you, you will know which paragraph I'm talking about. You guys give up?
No.
Are you looking for it? Look for it,
Yeah.
Brenda. Look for it. We're going on number 1. As permitted by good faith exercise of paragraph what of that agreement? Come on. Can be paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, it would have to be 5 other than you have to type it in, right?
No, I'm going by this paragraph of the agreement.
Oh, by that paragraph. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. Not other. I'm going by the paragraph. Which paragraph applies when it comes to the purchase contract? So right now we're not doing other. We're using number 1 right there.
Oh.
There is a bit. Which one?
8.
8. Carlos says 8. Let's see. Let's go to. Let's bring the RPA. And he chose 8. Okay. Let's see, Carlitos. Carlos says 8 of the purchase contract. Okay. Let's see what says on 8. Okay, right here. He's saying based on the contingencies and removal of contingencies. Now, why 8, Carlos?
It specifies all the contingencies in place.
Right, but it doesn't really specify based on the good faith exercise, right? Again, exercise that, again, to remove contingencies or not to remove contingencies, right? And the satisfaction that once you remove contingencies, right, you'll be paying, there's consequences based on that. So 8 is not the correct one. You guys give up? Okay, I'll tell you the answer, and that'll be paragraph 14, right here. Time period, removal of contingencies and cancellation rights, right there. The following time periods may only be extended, altered, modified, or changed by mutual written agreement. Any removal of contingencies or cancellation under this paragraph by either buyer or seller must be exercised in good faith in writing, CAR form CR or CC. Yes? So which paragraph? I can hear you, folks. Which paragraph?
14.
14.
14.
14. Okay. So if you're not exercise your rights for cancellation is paragraph 14. Thank you to all of you guys who answered that. Okay, so right here, we go to 14. That's it. Just like that. Okay. Questions on 1A1. Okay, because you're saying that again, based on my inspections, investigations, reports, and everything else, I'm gonna exercise my right or my good faith exercise right, which is paragraph on page 14. Right. Okay. Now let's say other. What can be other? What can be another reason we want to cancel? By either party. Other. Anybody has other? Other?
Is that something about, could be about not being able to deliver clear title? Could that be?
That could be one of them, yes. But that also applies for 14, Mike.
Okay,
Because that's part of your investigations, right? And reports.
okay, so I don't know then. I hope I won the lotto.
Right?
too.
2 billion. 2 billion, right? Wow. I love you, Mike.
Too late, you didn't say it fast enough. I'm sorry.
One in Altadena won.
Somebody, Altadena?
One at 2 billion.
Wow, nice. Okay, let's go back to the business. Come on. What could be other reason why either party want to cancel? Okay, let's focus on the buying side. Why would a buyer want to cancel? Another.
So even after investigations, let's say he's driving by the property one night and he sees a graffiti or a gang, or maybe went on Megan's Law, or does that all apply within the contingency period?
Yes, sir. Contingency period, yes. What if your buyer was not able to get the loan approved, right? And he was trying to get a cosigner, or not able to get the down payment. It was maybe from his 401k or something else. That could be one of the reasons why, right? Maybe he was not able to obtain the down payment or anything else for that loan to get approved. That could be one of them, right? An excuse. Unable to obtain down payment assistance, maybe from the city. I think maybe CD grants. Can that be it? Mike? Right? So maybe unable to get CD grants, down payment assistance, right? That could be others. Now, if 1 through 5 do not apply, then we go with the proposed mutual cancellation, right? If either parties want to go their own ways, then it's a mutual cancellation, right? The buyer and seller has signed below and mutually agreed to cancel this contract. All right. So any questions on this contract, on the cancellation of contract? Are we good? Did we get it? Yes. All right. Let's move on, folks. Addendums. Addendums. Now, what's all this stuff here? Okay. What is the purpose of an addendum? Why do we use addendums for? For what? To add stuff, to modify, right? But it's mostly to add stuff to the contract, right? Now, can an addendum be? Now, does an addendum can we use an addendum to unemployment? Yes, yes, Teresa, that could be another reason why. On your cancellation of a contract, yes, unemployment. Maybe he was laid off or unemployed. Thank you, Tere. All right. So when it comes to addendums, okay, can we use addendums to instead of a counter offer. I have seen agents use addendums instead of a counter offer. Don't ask me why, but I seen it in my sky slope. If you are helping the buyer, okay, and you get an addendum instead of a counter offer, please refuse that addendum and request that agent to send you a counter offer. But you may say, well, but Freddy, I don't want to jeopardize it. You know, they already sent me an addendum and it's a counter offer. No, addendums are not counter offers, folks. Okay. That's why we have a form for every specific scenario. Okay. And I have seen that, and actually happened to one of our agents here. Okay. They sent him an addendum instead of a counter offer. Please refuse that and have the listing agent send you the correct form, and if they want to counter back on that purchase contract. Okay. Addendums are for to add stuff to the contract, right? Or to modify. Now, keep in mind that addendums not always they get agreed, right? They don't always get approved from either party, right? That's why you gotta integrate it into the purchase contract, to the counter offer, or to the request for repairs, or any other disclosure that needs to be part of, right? But for example, okay, let's pretend that you're asking now, okay, well, maybe you had agreed to the sales price to be $550,000, but now you open escrow, you went to your repairs and etc. The city pre-sale inspection report, right? But now you want to modify the price, right? Now, can we use an addendum to modify the price, to either adjust or to credit back to the buyer? Can we use an addendum for that?
Yes.
Claudia says yes. And I
Yeah.
would say, Clarita, no, we got to use a different form for that. Okay. Again, folks, keep them. There's forms for every single scenario. And an addendum is not one of them. Yes, I have seen it. Yes, sometimes it goes passes by, but to request either a different sales price, to request a credit to the buyer, or to request anything else, okay? The key word here is request, request. And what are we asking for? A request for repairs, okay? And let me bring that form to you guys, okay? The request for repairs. And on the request for repairs, it speaks and talks about what? About a possible credit or a possible, right, reduced price, right? And let's go through it here, okay? So this is a request for repairs, number one. Now, keep in mind, when you submit request for repairs, you must keep it on your own sequence numerical number, okay? Addendums follow the full sequence from either party, right? If it's one, the next one will be number 2, 3, and so on, right? But when it comes to the request for repairs, you need to follow your own sequence numerical numbers. So this will be number 1. The response for the request for repairs will be number 1 from the seller side. If they object to that one and you want to do another one, you'll be number 2 on your side. Okay, but let's move on. Okay, so again, when was this request for repairs? Okay, number 1 prepared. It was done today, right? And again, in accordance with the terms and conditions of the purchase agreement or other, right? When was the offer dated? Well, okay, the offer was dated on the last week, right? November 3rd, right there. Between Bob buyer and Sally seller, right? Now, right here, you're asking the request for items to be repaired remove or redo, right? So if you don't do a laundry list of items that need to be repaired, replaced, or need to be redone, right? Then you could use an addendum, right? And you could put here 1 and 1 and see attach addendum, right? Number 1, right? And then of course you're gonna attach here, and then the data of that addendum as well. It goes right here, right? So now you could do your addendum and put the whole list right there. So now you're incorporating that addendum with the request for repairs number 1, right? So if we go back to our addendum, right? If I go find my addendum here. Here it is. So now go back to my addendum, right? I'm making it to other. I'm making it based on the request for repairs number 1. Dated today's date, right? Again. It's not part of the purchase agreement. It's part of the request for repairs number 1. Dated today, right? And then you go on here with your laundry list, right? Now, you guys actually just copy and paste what the summary from the request from the home inspection report. A lot of you guys copy and paste the summary from the home inspection report. That's okay, but you definitely got to be more specific on the items you want the seller to repair, replace, or redo, right? So keep in mind that, okay, when you're asking request for repairs, okay, please do not ask for smoke detectors. Do not ask for the water heater bracing. Do not ask for the carbon monoxide. Okay, that's already has been negotiated on your purchase contract. It's on page 2, if I'm not mistaken, of the purchase contract. To whom is gonna pay for the smoke detectors to be installed? Who's to pay for the carbon monoxide to be installed? And who is to pay for the water heater bracing and embracing the water heaters to be paid by the seller, right? So please do not negotiate that already, because it's already been negotiated on your purchase contract. So no need to put it again. It's redundancy. So please omit yourself from putting that on the request for repairs, okay? Now, what would I want to include on my request for repairs? Now, my take when it comes to doing a home inspection, okay, a home inspection, and I got the report, okay, there are at least 5 items I always tell my clients to look for, okay, and please take note, okay. The 5 items I always tell my clients to look for, which is a more expensive to either to work or to repair. The first one is going to be the roof, right? First thing is the roof, always. Second thing will be plumbing. Okay, plumbing is also expensive. If you have galvanized plumbing and it's an older home, most likely you have built up calcium, right? And the water flow is going to be kind of not as fast or as high pressure you want it to be. And most likely the plumbing must be replaced with copper plumbing. Now, if you have an older home built before 1960 or 59, most likely you will have an raised foundation. That's your third item, right? The foundation could also be bad as well. Now, if it isn't a raised foundation, most likely the plumbing is underneath the property, right? But when your house is in a slab, guess what? The plumbing is either in the slab or on the attic. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, the next item to look for is windows, right? A lot of older homes, 20s, 30s, 40s, and some 50s here and there, right? Have wooden windows. Wooden windows. Now, a lot of investors who buy these old properties, they paint over the windows, and guess what happens to the window? The windows will be painted shut, will not be able to open no more, right? A lot of investors or a lot of people will paint the windows, and once the paint dries, that window be painted shut, unable to be open. Okay. Next thing will be what? Electrical, right? Electrical, right? Again, electrical be something that, now if you have older homes, maybe you might not have enough circuit breakers. Now we know nowadays we have computers, TVs, stereos, sound bars, smart gadgets to the whole home. And maybe all that capacity, electrical capacity might not be enough for your electrical panel, right? So keep that in mind, okay? And the last one is your building structure, right? Again, the walls, stucco, who knows what, right? So always keep an eye on those items and focus your buyers on those items as well, okay? Because you don't want to focus on cosmetic stuff. I told my clients, focus on the cosmetic at the very end. Don't focus at the beginning. Let's focus on the roof. Let's focus on the windows, on the plumbing, right? On the foundation if it has one, on the electrical, right? On something that's gonna cost you thousands of the dollars to fix it, not pennies to the dollar, right? Cabinets, that's the last thing I want to worry about, right? Maybe a water fixture, if it's leaking, it could be repaired, replaced, right? But I really want to focus on plumbing, electrical, roof, windows, the property structure, and the foundation. Okay, because that's going to cost a lot of money to get repaired or replaced. Now, if all that is good, then yes, now move on with your cosmetic stuff. Maybe you want a leaky faucet, a leaky fixture, maybe a light switch, maybe something, a broken window, who knows what, right? Again, broken windows through FHA, they need to get replaced. Missing screens through FHA, they need to get replaced. The appraisal is gonna call all that on it, right? Missing windows, broken doors, broken windows, walls, who knows what, all that is gonna be called on an FHA buyer, okay? So let me pause real fast. And I know you guys have questions in regards to what I'm talking about here. So please either unmute yourself or put it on the chat box.
Freddie, I have a question.
Yes.
So when it comes to most expensive repairs, sometimes couldn't it be a major pest control issue?
Yes, that could be another one. Yes, maybe because again, we're speaking about maybe the fumigation, right? It needs to be treated. Maybe they got to replace woods, right? And any shingles, any I'm sorry, not shingles, the eaves, right? The rafters. So many things. Yes, Brenda, and right, that could be another reason why, right? So anything's gonna cost, but now keep in mind, Brenda, right? You always want to negotiate the term from the beginning,
Right.
not on your request for repairs. Even though yes, it is right here on section on part B, right? But I always tell you guys, please, if you're gonna negotiate a term, always bring it upon the purchase contract.
Right.
Because if you come on the buyer's request here on the request for repairs, they might not want to do it afterwards. So I always request for the term completion to be done and negotiated from the beginning on your RPA. Always, always, always. So now when you come to the request for repairs, now you're speaking about the property itself. Yeah, expensive roof, plumbing, and so many things. Okay. So I believe Brenda Urena had something here in the chat box. That was 6. Brenda, what do you mean by that was 6?
I counted 6.
Yes. I'm sorry.
6
Yes.
requests for repair.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. No, sorry. 6 items to look for.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for bringing it up. Yes, it was 6 items. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, that was 6. Correct.
So
So-
Freddie,
Yes.
I know I've been guilty of listing like the bracing for the water heaters and stuff like that. So that would be under Q6.
Of the RPA.
Yes,
Let me bring it up, Brenda. Let me see. Hold on.
for oh no, Q4.
Q4.
Okay.
Q4. Let's see. Q4. Yes, there it is right there. Yep. It's all
Okay.
there.
Okay, got it.
See, so again, so there's no need for you to bring it up
Mhm.
again because it's already there. Now,
Mm.
if you don't bring it up, right? Let's say you don't bring it up on your request for repairs and it was not done, you can actually submit it again if you want to, or send an email. Hey, look, it is on the RPA. It was negotiated that the seller paid for those items, right? And they say, well, and if they tell you, well, Brenda, you never requested it, but it's here. Again, I don't have to request it because it's already been negotiated from day one, right here. Okay. So, any other questions when it comes to the request for repairs? Okay, so let's move on. So now you go send your laundry list, right? Or again, you go ask the seller, right, to pay for the termite completion, which is section 1, right? Always section 1. Or you could request, right? Letter C, buyer requests that the seller credits the buyer, right, at the close of escrow, right? Now, keep in mind, and I brought this up, and Claudia, I know you brought this through the addendum. Now, keep in mind, the lender will only allow a certain credits based on the repairs of the property. Now, if you're asking at least 20,000 in repairs, right? Keep in mind, well, it's 200,000. Keep in mind that can be a red flag. Why is that? Because now you're saying the house is not worth 550. It's only worth 530 because based on the repairs you're asking to be credited back to the buyer, right? So I would definitely now, yes, Claudia, I would definitely put this 20,000, right, towards buyer's closing costs. Okay. I would definitely use this money towards my buyer's closing costs, not for repairs, right? Not for credits for the property, but for closing costs, right? Because now, yes, the bank will allow more closing costs than repairs. Now, if you have any questions about this, always contact your lender. The person who's helping your buyers obtain that loan. He or she can help you better when it comes to asking for credits or a credit to the buyer on this type of dollar amount. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Or it goes here. Now, buyer's request the seller to modify the purchase price. The revised purchase price shall be what? And it goes right here. So instead of 550, now it's gonna go 530, right? In case they don't want to give any credits or any closing costs. Now, can you ask for both? Can you ask for credits and to lower the sales price?
Yes, and sometimes you can only credit back as, what is it, 3%?
Yes, up to 3%, yes.
And then, so some can go to the closing costs and the other goes to,
The
hold on,
sales
let me
price.
ask Sylvia.
The sales price, yes, Mike.
The sales price.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you were asking more, maybe because again, 3% is not enough, right? For the repairs. Okay, no, okay, well, I'm gonna ask you for to lower the price and also give me a credit as well to justify the difference of the other repairs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Good job. Yes, Mike. And very good. Okay. Now, and every time you provide or request a repair, right? Or anything, you need to provide and attach the following items. Okay. So you need to let the seller to be aware why and from where you became aware of the items you want to request for repairs. Okay. Well, it came from the elite home inspections and also came from the term report that it was obtained as well. Any other report, it could be a septic tank report, any other report you want to, okay? It could be a city precinct report as well. Okay. Now, keep in mind when it comes to the FHA and VA lender required repairs, okay? We know that what the seller is not obligated to do the lender required repairs. We know that, right? It's up to the seller to allow either to redo them or not to do them, but they're not obligated to do the lender require repairs. We know that, right? So keep that in mind, folks, okay? And if it is, then attach the report as well, okay? Now, if you're asking for repairs, okay, if you're asking for repairs, okay, the buyer must, in good faith, okay, must remove those contingencies, right? Identify attached card form CR, okay? So, Mr. Seller, in good faith, because I'm asking for those items to get repaired or replaced, I'm gonna remove my contingencies based on those items. So I'm gonna remove everything except for the loan and the appraisal, because I want you to replace or repair those items or credit me back or drop the price, right? Whatever that is. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, guess what? The request for repairs, it also has what? It has life. It has life now. Before it didn't have life, but now it does. It will expire. It will expire on what day? Same day, on the third day after the buyer has signed, right? Or you can also extend it as well if you want to, right? Now, let me go back to the request for repairs. We know that seller doesn't have the, again, doesn't need to comply with the lender required repairs. Now, what happens if the seller doesn't respond or reply to the request for repairs? Is he obligated to do so? Is the seller obligated to reply or to respond to the request for repairs? Yes or no?
No.
No, exactly. And that's in the RPA. Okay, folks, please keep in mind the seller is not obligated, okay, to respond to the request for repairs, okay? So do not get butthurt, do not get sad, don't get depressed, don't get, okay? Don't try to suicide yourself because the seller didn't reply, okay? It's here, and your buyers did initial that part where it says that the seller is not obligated to reply. Okay, and it's somewhere, hold on, let me find it. I think it's on page. Here it is. Okay. Now it says here, right? Buyer may, within the time specified in paragraph 3L3, request that seller makes repairs or take any other action regarding the property on card form RRRR. Now it says here what? Seller has no obligation to agree to or respond to the buyer's request card form RRRR or RRRR, right? If seller does not agree or does not respond, buyer is not contractually entitled to have the repairs or other requests made and may and only cancel based on contingencies in this agreement. Okay, so please. So the seller is not obligated or need to respond to the request for repairs. Now, I will tell you this, okay? Because we're good agents, right? Here at Berkshire, we are good agents and we're have some sort of courtesy, right? If you are helping the seller and your seller told you, hey, Mike, I told you the property, I'm not doing any repairs. Please don't tell me to do this. I'm not going to respond to nothing that comes your way. I will tell you, Mike, as your manager, hey, Mike, at least reply back to the buyer's agent and let them know, per the seller is not going to do any repairs. Just reply. Give them a nice little courtesy notice. The seller will not respond or reply to the buyer's request for repairs. Thank you very much. At least give them a nice courtesy email. That's it. So they don't get waiting on you or calling you, texting you, email, hey, what happened? I sent you this last night, the night before, you haven't replied, you haven't answered. But at least courtesy takes us a long way. Okay? and this goes to all of you guys on this call, please, an email, text message, phone call, let them know that the seller is not going to reply or respond to the request for repairs. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now that this has been sent to the buyer, I'm sorry, this has been sent to the seller, right? Note to the seller, okay, only check one. Okay, FHA, VA, if the parties do not reach an agreement or completing these repairs or other actions specified in paragraph 3A or the buyer FHA or VA section, the buyer's request, FHA or VA lender will not loan the buyers the funds needed to purchase the property. If that happens and there's a finance contingency that has not been removed, buyer may cancel that agreement, card form CC. Right now, seller agrees to the buyer's request, right? To all of them, everything that was done here, he has agreed to, right? Or seller responds to the buyer's request on the attached card form RRRR, right? So keep in mind, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Sorry. So if you select one, your seller has agreed to everything on page 1. On the laundry list, on the, if it has been applied here, termite, the credits, and the reducer price. Okay. If you select 1 or 2, partial agreement, right? Seller agrees to the all of the following, except maybe I okay with that, but I don't agree to reduce the price. I don't agree to give you a credit back to you, the buyer, right? I'm willing to do the repairs, but no lower the price and no repairs or credit back. Or he wants to respond on his own request, right? Which we're here. Or 4, buyer's requests are not incorporated into the agreement. Seller responds to the buyer's request on the attached amendment to existing card form AEA, right? Or 5, seller does not agree to any buyer's request. Only select one. You cannot select multiple. Okay. So depending on what you have selected here, okay, only 1 and 2 can go to the buyer. Okay. If 3, 4, and 5, I'm sorry, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, okay, have been selected, then the buyer has to either accept the seller's partial agreement, or the buyer does not accept the partial agreement and withdraws the request for number 1 and makes a new request on number 2. Okay, but let's go right now. Let's say the seller has response on their own attached form card RR, right? So on this one, he doesn't agree to none of the repairs or anything that has been reduced the price or lower the or credit. So now we got to go on the 4 R's. So now right here, we have the seller's response to any buyer's reply to the request for the repairs number 1. Okay, same thing. And this is based on what? This is together what? With the request from number 1, when it was dated today, right? And so on. And it says here, seller's response to the buyer's request. Seller agrees, check all that apply. Okay, all that apply. To all the buyer's request and the request number 1, except, right? You could do your own attachment. See attached number 2, addendum number 2, or whatever you want, or at the close of escrow, I'll give a credit for how much, right? Or to modify the price at your own sales price or other, right? Other. You could be maybe for closing costs or anything else, right? So check only either all or that they apply. And also when it comes to the seller's conditions as well, right? You want them to remove all contingencies as well. And also the 4 R's also has an expiration date as well. Okay, it expires as well. Once the seller has responded to the request for repairs, right? Then the buyer's gonna either accept and responds and agrees to the seller's conditions, or buyer's responds and modifies the following modifications, or the buyer withdraws, right, the original request for repairs and starts a whole new one on number 2, right? And then the seller will either agree or reject, right, depending on the response from the buyer's side. So I'm gonna stop real fast, come back to you guys. So any questions on the request for repairs or the response for the buyer's request for the repairs? We're good? Naomi, you good?
I'm good.
Awesome. So no questions? We got it covered? Very good.
Yeah, a question.
Yes, Mike.
Most requests for repairs I've seen are all out of their timelines, past their inspection contingencies. People don't get their inspections done in time, and they offer a fast inspection, and then 2 weeks or a week after the inspection was done
Okay.
and the contingency was due, they're still doing and trying to negotiate credit for
Right.
repairs. So if you're representing the seller,
Right.
the moment that that contingency becomes due, what is the correct form of action to avoid that?
Well, so you're saying that the time has passed, which is allowed to the buyer to perform when it comes to present a request for repairs, right? The 17 days.
Right, let's say they wrote in, they want to do a fast inspection, their inspection contingency removal, let's say in 10 days.
Okay,
They did not choose the 17 days.
correct. Okay. So within those 10 days, the buyer must provide a request for repairs to the seller.
Not after.
Not after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the correct procedure for? Because sometimes you know that you don't have to respond to the request for repairs,
Right.
but there's a hidden pressure that the seller's not gonna sell his house. He knows that these repairs may be reasonable.
Right.
So how do you
So-
try to limit the length of time, someone buying time?
Well, you know that per contract on those 10 days, right? Then you as a helping the seller, right, as a listing agent, I would encourage you to submit a notice to seller, a notice to buyer to perform, and either, okay, your time's up, remove that contingency based on that period of time
When would you introduce that
on the
Notice to
10th
perform.
on the 10th day.
on the 10th day? So you
Yes.
get an extra 3 days.
2 days, no, 2 days.
2 days, that one on 2 days. That's the one I missed.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
2 days.
Right.
Okay,
Now, if by the 12th day they haven't performed, then the seller has the right to cancel, may cancel, right? They may cancel for non performance based on the contingency,
mhm.
right? But now we still have the loan and the appraisal. Now, maybe the loan and the appraisal are 17 days or 14 days, then you still cannot cancel base because now you're still waiting for the appraisal and the loan.
Right, okay, I got
removal.
that. And then let's say they turn in a request for repair on the 10th day,
Yes,
but there is an item in dispute. Let's say Elite went out there, they're kind of scary. They did a really bad job. And we find out that it's an error.
okay,
A lot of agents, including myself, I always say, well, that 10-day is kind of getting extended because we're negotiating a request for repairs. How do you handle that?
well, again, keep in mind that anything that is brought new to the table from the seller to the buyer, it
Opens
gives
up the,
sorry,
opens up.
yeah,
Yeah.
a new contingency, only for that specific reason, only for the water leak on the house, on the roof, right? That's it, nothing else. So either address it. Now the buyer can come in, okay, well, we found out, but through the seller, through the buyer, okay, there's a water leak coming through the roof, through the attic, right? Either replace it, repair it, or credit back to the buyer in case they want to go that route. Now, but again, the seller has a right to say, well, yeah, it's there. We're not going to replace it or fix it. It stays how it is. So now the
And so
buyer,
you're saying that it only pertains to that particular item. Is that
Yes.
in writing anywhere?
you could put, well, it is in writing, it is on the RPA.
Uh-huh.
It is on the RPA, and I'll go ahead and look for it and bring it to your attention, but it's there. Any
Okay.
new findings, right? After that it was not paid by the seller or by the buyer, right? But it was close from the seller to the buyer, right? Then yes, that brings a new contingency only on that item.
From seller to the buyer. What about
Yes.
buyer to the seller?
Well, if this, okay, so if this was brought from the buyer to the seller, then no, you can't. Because again, the buyer knew from the get-go, from the beginning. Because most likely it was on the report, on the home inspection report,
Mhm.
there was a leak. But again, the seller wasn't aware about it, right? He didn't know about it,
Right,
but it was in the report. So that is not any contingency.
right.
That's still
Okay.
part of your whole investigations of the property, inspections.
Got it. So just because we're going back and forth on a request for repairs doesn't mean because of that one item that they have the right or to think that that has been extended automatically
Yeah, no.
because of negotiations.
No. Again, if it was paid by the buyer and they found out through that, right, and not through the seller, again, that's part of their investigations and inspections of the property.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that's what we have in our contract, but I've been to court cases where, judges don't see it that way.
Well, they don't see it that way because they think that the seller knew at one point, right, and he didn't disclose it,
Right. Something
and now
like that, right.
now it falls back to the buyer, right?
Right.
So it's their word against yours, and he said, she said. So who do I believe?
Right. Okay. All right. But that would be the correct procedure.
Yes,
A
sir.
notice to perform.
Correct. Yeah, and also keep in mind, right now. So going back to your question, Mike, and again, very good question, brother. Again, keep in mind if the buyer had put 10 days, keep on after the 11th day, the buyer cannot go back and, well, I forgot, I know we were negotiating here, but I want to go back and bring a termite company or someone else to do a roofer or an inspector or someone else. No, those 10 days is for the buyer to perform and do other investigations and inspections on the property. After the 11th day, that's it. Their days are over. They cannot come back
Yeah.
again and perform another inspection on the property.
Even though one inspection may open up, let's say you get an inspection and now it calls for roofer, but they're not going to go out to the roof for the next 3 or 4 days because it's raining. You know what I mean?
Well, then I would request an extension, right?
An extension.
Right. I would do that, yes. To perform and do another, to extend my contingency, right, for that period.
Got it.
Only for that reason, for the roof or for the leak on the attic.
Got it.
Great question, brother. Anything else? Anything else?